labor. I've never seen it. It's not, but why? Because it's messy. But Jesus shows us through the story of the birth of Christ that he's not afraid of a mess. There's a mess in the nativity. We don't say a whole lot about Joseph, and I think that's okay, because the story's really not about Joseph, is it? And it's really not about Mary either. It's about the child born in the manger. And that's important to remember in my own life, right? That it's actually not about me. That I spend most of my time worrying about me and worrying about my needs and what I want and what's going on in my life and my circumstances. But a beautiful life is one that's lived where I can bring glory to God, fulfill my purpose, and then disappear into eternity and just be with the Lord. And so this is I think a great picture that we see from the life of Joseph, that it doesn't tell us much about him, because it's not about him, just like it's not about us. What was Joseph's mission? I think part of God choosing Mary actually had to do with the fact that she was marrying Joseph.
Yes, sir.
Imagine if she was marrying like a jerk, okay? You know, like your ex, okay, girls? Just remember that. And I know you guys are spiritual and you're holy, but if you're, okay, guys, if your girlfriend or your fiance came to you and said, hey, I gotta talk to you. So, something's happened. You're like, what happened? I'm pregnant. But don't worry. It's God's baby. You're like, no. You would not believe her. Don't act spiritual. Don't lie in church. This is a mess. Right? This is a mess. You wouldn't believe it at all. The reality is that it would bother you. You'd probably say, who's the guy? You'd be like, it wasn't. She'd be like, it wasn't a guy. It was an angel. It was an angel. Angel who? Like, who's this guy? Where does Angel live? No, not. It was. His name's Gabriel, okay? His name's Gabriel. Gabriel who? Like, what street does Gabriel live on? Because I need to talk to Gabriel. And then it brings up the question, couldn't God have told Joseph about this before Mary had to have this conversation with him? That's interesting, right? Like, God could have, at the same time Mary's talking to an angel, had an angel visit Joseph so they were on the same page. But why is it that God would actually allow Joseph to go through a mess too?
Yeah. Come on.
Because it's a mess. Like, Mary knows, she's trusting, but that's why I love Joseph, is because he comes together with Mary and he doesn't want to shame her. In their culture, he could publicly shame her and have her stoned for this. For getting pregnant outside of their marriage when she was betrothed to him. It was a different culture. I'm not saying it was right, but Joseph, I love his heart, because it says he was considering in his heart how he could do this privately so that he wouldn't have to shame her.
That's what it said.
And I think God saw the heart of Joseph, but I think God knows how to use a mess to bring something out of us. Maybe we should stop complaining about every mess.
Keep going.
And start asking God, how are you going to get glory out of this mess? Because everything we see in the story is a mess. There's no pretty part of this story. I know your nativity at home is pretty, and we had a pretty background with a cute little manger and like nice little sparkles streaming down from heaven. It wasn't like that, I promise you. If you've ever been in a barn, okay, think of the smell of the animals that were around your nativity scene. You're like, look at the cute little camel, and there's a donkey and a sheep over here. It's not cute. It's not.
Tell the truth.
Okay, it's real.
Tell the truth.
It's not cute at all.
I think it's also important to note this. You ever wonder why the question that we have is, well, why did all this take place when it took place 2,000 years ago? Because I think it's important to note that all the things that we have on this earth today, all the technologies, were some form back then as well in regards to the natural resources and everything that could have been. But why didn't Jesus come back now? Because I'll tell you what would happen if Jesus came back now. Joseph would have been getting a paternity test.
Come on, preacher.
Joseph would have became a TikTok star going on and showing how horrible this woman Mary was to him, because the story would have been about him. There's been a shift in the ages to where we have slowly allowed the creep of the lie of the Garden of Eden, where the story became about us, where then the story wasn't about them. Even 2,000 years ago, at that moment, the story was still not about them fully ever. Because of the way they were brought up in the Jewish religion. They had to study from when they were young until they turned 13 years old to show themselves proof, to understand the story wasn't about them.